I'm hungry.
Yeah, you were hungry? You just said you were hungry. It's almost lunchtime.
Yeah.
This is the discussion video for the first couple of Venice videos. It turns out there will be 3 Venice videos. I actually just finished editing the other one, and it'll probably be up a similar time that you're seeing this. But in this video, we're just going to talk about the first 2, and then we'll be making another discussion video talking about the third one once everybody sees it, and if we get any questions about it and things like that. And I think the reason you might be hungry is because we just flipped through the first 2 videos. It's just like food and like pizzas and...
Every day is pizza day.
Every day is pizza day. I'm kind of wanting a pizza right now.
If anybody ever talks to me about Venice, the only thing I can think is every day is pizza day.
That's all you think about?
Well, wine. But
Wine. And that was
that's the first thing I think of.
That was a big part of when we first arrived. Actually, like I think when I think about my favorite moments of Venice, really may have just been that first night that we got there. I don't know if that was the best moment or anything, but it's really profound.
Where it's a blur, and it's nice to be in that blur. It's like a natural blur.
Yeah.
Because you just land somewhere and the lighting is different than what you had before, and the setting is completely different, and when it's at nighttime you don't get a full picture of everything, and I think that blur is really good.
It leaves a little bit of mystery to things. It came out of that week that we had been stuck in Scotland and had been through all those more difficult things that had happened to us in Scotland. And then we ended up in Venice, and when you have a flight and you're a little bit tired from the flight, and even though it's not that long of a flight, you end up landing, and then we have to navigate our way from the airport to the city.
That flight wasn't long, but it was stressful.
It was a stressful flight.
So,
and what was amazing is our flight landed, and we technically missed the last bus by time from the airport into the city of Venice, and it's quite a long way from the airport we landed at. It was like an hour or something. It was quite a bus ride.
That was also stressful.
And we were stressed. Well. We were stressed because like we're waiting for our bag, and you were going to figure out where the bus is, and like
I had already purchased the ticket.
And
so,
to be blunt, we had been living in Scotland world, and like if something like that had happened there, I don't think that it would have been so chill.
Yeah,
but. So
we were convinced that we had now in the whole world was going to say, deal with it. We're going to take your money because you have already paid for a bus that you didn't arrive for, and you'll have to sleep at the airport because there's no more buses.
But what ended up happening is the plane was late, right? So the bus company was just like, oh, plane's late, we'll just wait. And like they were just completely chill about it. It was no big deal at all.
And they waited for about six or 8 people.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full bus.
It wasn't a full bus, but they just waited.
And the guys were really just...
chill.
Yeah.
Like they were just really, really friendly. And like the girl you talked to at the booth and everything about the bus was really friendly. And so we made it into the city with no problem at all after all this stress. And it was just so nice to be in a part of the world where things are just like... okay, things can be a little bit more fluid and like, we'll help you out. And that really just kind of set us up for the remainder of being in Southern Europe, to be honest. Like that's just how things were for the rest of our time down there. So one of the things that we didn't talk about, and the reason that we didn't talk about it is because it was physically demanding, is when we first got to Venice.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
Yeah, you don't remember it so much because you weren't pulling the suitcase. When we first got to Venice, we had, the time we were traveling around in Europe, we had like this big purple suitcase with us. It has wheels on it, and it's where most of our stuff was. And we didn't pack super light like we do when we go on shorter trips like Southeast Asia and stuff, because we had to have coats and we were living a little more.
Yeah, well, we're definitely living because it's a long-term.
Yeah, we were there for 6 months, so we just had more stuff. So I had the suitcase. And you end up on the very corner of Venice where the bus station is. And then from there, there's no transportation network aside from the canals. And we went to get on a boat. And then we realized it's like crazy expensive. It was like $15 or something for a ticket just to go like 5 minutes on the boat. Like it was just like highway robbery expensive.
And our Airbnb had shown like, this is how you get here on the boat. And it said that you could walk, but like being that they showed how you get there on the boat, I was like, oh, this is how everybody travels. Yeah. So when we got there and it was extraordinarily expensive, I was like, people are doing this.
Yeah, and of course there's no buses or anything. There's no trains. There's nothing. You know, like the way. Yeah, they don't float. They don't float.
They can't fit.
Greyhound don't float on water. Get out there, 3,000, make the money. So, yeah, so we had this big suitcase and we had our bags and all of our stuff, and our Airbnb was not all the way on the other side of the city, but it was in the center. And it was quite a walk because we had to go over
more than 30 minutes to walk over.
Yeah, how many bridges was it? You counted them.
8.
It was 8.
No. I remember telling you it was 8, but really it was only 7, so that I could tell you after the last bridge. There's no more bridges.
So, and like, it's the cobblestone roads and stuff. You can't really roll your suitcase very well in a lot of places because it gets stuck or it wobbles back and forth, that kind of thing. So you're like constantly picking it up. So like we had this like long trek that we had to make to get to our Airbnb. And
then we get to the Airbnb and you have to carry the thing up the stairs some more.
Yeah.
I don't think it was raining.
It wasn't raining. So point being is we had all this stuff in Scotland. We had this difficult flight. We thought we were going to miss a bus. The bus worked out. We got to Venice. The boat was too expensive. We had to pull the thing all the way across. We dropped off our bag. It was like 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, and I remember
it was like pushing
asking
midnight.
Our host, like, where can we go and get food? And he was like, the only place that's open after midnight is this place. And I remember thinking, he's wrong. There's more places open.
Oh, he wasn't.
He's wrong.
He was right.
He was right.
It was the only place in the whole city.
Only place that was open. I don't know if it's just in that area, like the walkable distance, because he knew we weren't being on any like public transport, because we already had complained about how expensive things were. But yeah, I just remember thinking, he's wrong.
He wasn't.
There's a supermarket or a convenience store or something.
There was nothing.
There was nothing.
I'm glad though. Because it was probably the worst pizza we had the whole time we were there.
You know why I thought he was wrong? Because I wanted an apple.
Oh,
that's And if he was wrong, I would get an apple.
Didn't get an apple that night.
No.
So the reason that I think that specific meal sticks out is because of all those things that happened. And then we ended up at this little pizza place next to the canal. And it started to rain. And the boat was there. And it was magical. And we ordered this pizza, and then we ordered some. The wine was very overpriced. It doesn't matter though. Like it didn't. It was cheaper than the boat, and we just had this wine, and we had this pizza, and it was not. It was the circumstances around the whole situation that made it amazing. Because other than that little pizzeria is just like a tourist trap kind of pizzeria. There's nothing special aside from the fact that it happened to be opened, and that was like really, really strong memory, and I still have a really fuzzy in a good way, strong memory about it.
Blur.
It reminds me a lot of when we went to Seoul. It was very similar. We had a hard time for a month in China. We went to Seoul, and all of a sudden everything was perfect, and it was beautiful for the first night.
And yeah, I remember we were wandering around Seoul at one point in time, so when we found that machine, and we were sending
Taking
people
pictures.
postcards, like digital postcards, and yeah, I remember wandering around the city at nighttime. Yeah, and I don't know if that was the first night.
We've been back. Yeah, it was. It was the first night.
Wow.
Yeah, and we went to that McDonald's and we got the cheeseburgers or something, and then those Korean guys started bullshitting with us and stuff, and it was just all these friendly people. It was very similar to me that we had this like huge ball of stress, and then you go into a new place, and all of a sudden, poof.
It's kind of like Abu Dhabi as well.
Yeah.
When we hit the UAE after India, which was super
really
stressful.
Difficult.
And then we found Taco Bell.
We found Taco Bell, and we found Eason. Yeah, we met this girl there. So yeah, there's these moments that are just like, there's something, I have these little special places in my memory, and I know I'm going to have the same thing for Venice. Like a lot of other beautiful things happened in Venice. We ate better food, and we saw really cool things, et cetera, but there's just something about that moment, and it's not easy to convey that in video form without the whole background and explanation that we just gave.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's
because a lot of those very small little bits, like carrying the bag and stuff like that, and it's not something you put on a video. It's just...
Well, if you had been carrying that bag, I would have videoed it.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, the reason we didn't video the carrying the bag is it was just a lot. There was just too much going on. That doesn't happen so often, really, where we just get so bogged down we don't like have the opportunity to shoot. But that was one of those times.
And we also had like the guy waiting for us.
Yeah, that was also happening.
So.
But yeah, I mean, aside from that, like, I mean, the stuff that we showed in Venice, I think a lot of the video speaks for itself. Like, it's astonishingly beautiful. it is really, really an amazing place to explore away from the touristy sections.
And also, the thing that we kept saying to ourselves is that Venice isn't what you think, or isn't what we thought, considering that we thought Venice is going to be this place, they'll have these canals, and it's going to be a very, very small area. But it's quite big.
Yeah, it takes an hour or more to walk across it, just walking straight. Like, just going. Not getting lost, which is impossible.
We thought, like, you're going to end up staying on the outside, and everybody's going to try to squeeze into this little area that is, like, fantastic. But you don't have to do that. It's massive, and you can find areas to get away from people, away from the tourist areas, and really just enjoy the place.
It's very easy to have your own little section of it. Yeah. Like, just sitting outside eating a pizza or something, and still being able to see something incredible.
Yeah. And we also thought that it was just going to feel fake.
And it doesn't. And
we thought Disneyland-esque, but it's not. It is authentic as hell. Like, I in my mind, and I never put that word on it, but that word is...
Yeah.
When I start thinking about authentic things, I think I'm going to go, is it Venice level
Venice levels of authentic? Yeah, it's because, I mean, there isn't, like, a Starbucks on every corner. There's no
Starbucks.
There were no Starbucks. They weren't there. There was a McDonald's. There was one.
Yeah, there was one.
We didn't go in
the city,
but there was one in the city, and I mean that was like the only like commercialism that was.
The big downfall of Venice, not big downfall. I don't know how to say this. Like, it's all Italian food. there is not like an area to branch out from that. Maybe like, there was a kebab somewhere.
Yeah,
I think. But it is...
I see what you're getting at.
There's a lack of variety. But we had discussed this. It's that they know who they're catering to. And people are coming to Venice, and they want to eat Italian food. And the places that aren't going to serve Italian food aren't going to get patronized.
Yeah, Chinese restaurant isn't going to do very well.
Yeah, so people aren't really going to go there. I think I did see one Chinese restaurant, and I sat there.
Yeah, we did.
That's why we started having this conversation.
We saw one.
And... So there isn't going to be any people going to those restaurants, so they're just going to fizzle out.
We were there for like 10 days or something. I don't mind so much, I guess, that it was all Italian food.
But that's what all people going there are thinking. I'm only here for 10 days. I'm going to get as much Italian food as I can.
Yeah, exactly. If I'd lived there, I'd be like, man, I want a burrito eventually.
You start learning how to cook.
Yeah. I bet you if you leave the island area and go back onto the mainland, it probably gets more diverse, which is something we're definitely going to find out when we explore Italy in the future, like for sure. I'm trying to think of anything else in those two videos that... Oh, the rowing adventure.
Yes. That was...
amazing. Very cool. And like we had discussed, it was only... Per minute, it was cheaper than going on a regular gondola. But you could go on a gondola cheaper. But for a shorter amount of time.
But
with no
and
experience.
Not a physical experience.
And we notice, you see the gondola people going by all the time with different tourists and stuff. And it is, I mean, it doesn't look like that great of an experience. Maybe, I mean, we didn't do it, so it's really hard to judge it personally. But it really does just look like...
It's the same as like the carriage in Central Park.
Yeah.
To me, that it's like without ponies.
Yeah.
With a dude and
with a guy.
Stick.
But like they're not even... when you go to Disneyland, they like sing and stuff. And you know what I mean? You have this image that's like more like that, or that they're going to be explaining things to you and stuff. I didn't get the impression that was
did see some
going
singing.
on. Did you see some singing?
I saw some singing, but I did not see any of it. Well, I did see people talking about extra. Areas too. Could be that costs extra. Could be that you book that in advance. You can't just walk up to some dude standing by the canal that has on the shirt and be like, so you're going to be singing to me, right?
It could be linguistical things too. Maybe a lot of the people are French and they don't speak strong English, and there's a communication thing. So how much? Yeah, who knows?
They speak the rainbow of languages.
They speak them all, man.
All of them.
So I'm really happy that we did what we did, because we got to hang out with this girl that was like cooler than both of us ever, and got to go out and like kind of understand how difficult it actually is to learn how to move the boat around and stuff like that, and got to go out into the actual lagoon, which is something that the normal gondolas won't get to do and stuff. So that was an awesome find. I'm really glad that your friend turned us on to that.
Yeah, definitely one of the best experiences.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me yesterday, like, what was the best thing about Europe? And I told them about Northern Scotland because how beautiful it was. Because it was the first thing that came to mind. When people ask me what was the best thing, I always just tell you what the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Because there's just such a variety of, like, if you're talking about the Europe trip, there's such a variety of moments that my brain can't do that math.
And nobody wants to hear 3 hours of explanations of all the different things. Like,
and nobody wants for me to sit there and think about it for a little while. They just want to hear a story. So, it works out for everyone, I think.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think what was really especially cool about that gondola thing that we did was that in Venice, there is a lot to eat, there's a lot to drink, there's a lot to look at. There's not much to do. There's not very many activities. You know what I mean? Like, there's not, like...
There's museums, but to me, a museum's not an activity.
That's just a going and looking
more
thing. Yeah, there's not a lot of, like, actual things to do.
I do differentiate those things when I do planning and stuff. Like, if it's an activity or if it's a look and see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so this was a opportunity to actually do something and like experience things on a deeper level or in a different way than you would from other things. Why do you think that the camera is flashing in a weird way and it's making me nervous? What do you think that means?
I don't know.
It's not flashing anymore. I think we're good.
Yeah, but the other day, for some reason, like, my brain just thought it's the get the fuck out. The other day, they brought us the get the fuck out pickles. And that was really funny to me.
She took them.
She took
them. We were at a restaurant in Japan too long, just talking and with some friends.
They had lots of people that probably wanted to sit at our big booth.
We didn't notice had shown up.
Yeah.
And they had taken our food. And, like, in Japan, they won't come to you and be like, so will you leave? Like, they won't say that. So they just do these little actions. Mm-hmm. And there's, like, these little pickles on our table, and she just came and took the pickles and put them on somebody else's table, and we were like, it made us look around and be like, oh, we've been here way too long. It was effective.
It was effective and very, very funny.
It was good.
Okay, well, that's...
Anyway, that's recent stuff. Okay. I don't know, Venice stuff. I mean, I don't know. I think the videos really are
every day's pizza day. We had wine.
Some people were like, oh, why did you eat pizza every day? And, like, some of the questions and the comments and stuff have been like, oh, you were in Italy, you should have tried this, you should have tried that. And we did eat other things, and most of it didn't land in that first video or two. And we have some pasta and stuff in the last video that I just edited and stuff.
We did have the pasta in the box.
Yeah, we had the pasta in the box.
I really enjoyed that experience because I just asked the guy, I was like, what would you get? And he was like, I own this restaurant, and everything I serve here, I love. And I was like, but what would you get? And I got what he would get. And he still kind of asked me, like, what kind of noodles do you want? And I was like, I wanted the spiral ones. And he was like, those are the good ones. Or whichever one that I did order, because right now I like the spiral ones. I don't know if that's what I got in the video.
Yeah, so part of the reason that we didn't eat in a lot of other restaurants or different types of food, there's a few reasons. One, my stomach had been upset when we were in the UK for quite a long time.
Pizza is medicine.
And the pizza is essentially medicine, especially there. It's really, really, really simple ingredients. It's just like tomato sauce, a little bit of cheese, and some dough, and that's it. There's not a bunch of, like, oils and greases. Maybe there's some oil, but it's not like deep fried, and it's not like all these extra things and stuff. So I was eating the pizza, and I was actually able to digest it, and I was comfortable, and I was like, this is really nice. So that was one reason we were eating a lot of pizza. 2, pizza's amazing, so we were eating a lot of pizza. 3, it was the cheapest food by, like, a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge part of it because we were spending more than we were comfortable with on the Airbnb, but it was okay because of where it was. But a way to compensate for that was not like lashing out on food. And lastly, everybody that we talked to about the food in Venice, not many people claimed that the cuisine there was really that great.
Yeah,
like that was kind of a lot of the restaurants get a little bit bogarted by the tourism industry, so that the quality kind of drops even though the price goes up. And I am completely fine with exploring Italian cuisine deeper on a trip when we go back to Italy. And
you said when?
Yeah, when we go back to Italy. And
not that we've planned anything. It's just intention.
We go back to Italy, and then we get the opportunity to actually like dig into things a little more in like places where the food is going to be better and cheaper. So that was like the three or four fold reason, but mostly just pizza is really good. I'm going to stop the camera. We're going to come back in just a second. The battery is about to die. All right, we back.
It's time for questions.
Yeah, it's time for some questions. So I was going to explain, like, the one thing I don't like about our camera is that it's got a little symbol that shows how much battery is left, only it doesn't actually show you how much is left.
It just says that if you have more than, like, 5%,
full battery, and then the other option is blinking battery is dying right now. So it's okay when we're shooting all day long, because I kind of keep in track in my head, like how much battery we've used and stuff. But like we haven't used the camera in like a week or two right now, so I don't know how much is like left on the charge. So we always end up like, oh, I gotta reset the thing and put a new battery in. But anyway, this question is from Tammy, and it is very kind of similar to how we were just talking about how you categorize things to be look and see or do.
Activity.
So she asked something that's kind of like a twist on that. There's so much to do and eat in a city, but the far out countryside has amazing landscapes. Do you have a travel productiveness calculation of urban to rural time spent on your trips?
Urban to rural. So essentially, like if you take in Croatia.
Oh, let's use Scotland, because people have seen the Scotland videos.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because we did Edinburgh and we did Glasgow.
I guess that I don't think about urban versus rural.
Mm-hmm.
I see where we're going to go.
Yeah.
And then I ask myself, how much time do you need there to do that?
Okay.
So it's not a balance between the two. It's that, okay, we're going to go to this place. How much time does it need? And when you have freedom of being able to travel as you'd like, as we did, that works out. So that in one way is a way of planning. And there's another one where we have a time crunch.
Like
and I'm trying to think of an example.
3 weeks for an entire country.
Or like a prefecture.
Or a prefecture,
yeah, like,
okay.
So a prefecture, we've got a weekend. And I don't necessarily know if I think about rural to urban, but like when the one that comes to mind is the place that had the gyoza festival.
Tochigi.
Tochigi. We spent a lot of time kind of out in the wilderness doing things, and I always do like to push as far into the like corner of the prefecture and then kind of dig back into something. I guess I don't really think about rural to urban, but I do try to maximize as much of what we can do in that area, and I think that evens out, because the rural areas are going to provide you what they can, and the urban is also going to provide you what they can.
I think it depends too on how special the urban versus rural is. So like,
have we ever had anything that was totally skewed?
We've done trips in Japan where we didn't really go out into the countryside very much. But like we've had city trips, like when we went to Osaka or something like that. But the whole purpose was to go to the city for that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a country or something where we just stayed in. I mean, there's been countries where there has been no urban.
But you think about like going to Hong Kong, we still pushed out into...
We did. We went into the islands and stuff.
Into the islands. Yeah. We also would go out into the country. And
I think it's really good to see a balance, especially if it's available. With Scotland specifically, it was that we'd been told by everybody, you got to go up north. Like, it's amazing up north. And like that gets drilled into you so deeply that you're just like, okay, well, we're definitely gonna make it happen. And I mean, Glasgow and Edinburgh are cool, but they're not nearly as diverse as what you would see going up north. You know what I mean? So we didn't do that much in Edinburgh, I don't feel.
Yeah, that's true.
We did do some things, but there's a lot that we didn't do. And that was because time just got not sacrificed, but flipped over to we're going to go spend time up north exploring.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone that was skewed, but I can't.
I'm going through.
It's a really interesting question. I really like thinking about it, but a video of me looking slightly to the left is not really.
I'm looking slightly to the
left.
Yeah. Yeah, and like even with Borneo and stuff, we did KK, I think the name of the city was. We did that for a couple days, but then we wanted to get out into the countryside.
Yeah.
Both have got value, extraordinary value.
So I wouldn't say that there's a balance. There's just draw. And I follow wherever the draw is. And not necessarily tourist draw, but Katie draw or Eric draw. Like, what would be most interesting to us? Yeah. And I think that leads to a variety because we are drawn to the urban and we are drawn to the rural. And
some people, you talk to some people and they're like, I only like cities, I don't like countryside. Or you get the opposite. People are like, I avoid all cities, I only do countryside stuff. But I think that we both are fairly evenly attracted to both.
Yeah, like sometimes I just think about what you can do out away from the city and I'm like, I want that. And then sometimes I'm like, I want it to be hot and sweaty and surrounded by people and chaos. And
yeah, I'm thinking like Taiwan, we did the same thing. We did city, countryside. Yeah.
So
I never really thought about it.
Naturally, we're even keeled on that. So
we don't very often like pick places to go based on like, oh, this will make good video stuff. That's very, very rarely even comes up. Usually it's like, oh, that would be fun, let's go do that. And then it's just that's just what happens to go along with like what happens in the videos. I guess there's certain times where we don't video things because it's difficult or there's some problem or something, or it's like
boring.
Or it's boring. It happens every once in a while. But yeah, our draws are basically just based on our interests, which is really cool. I'm glad that works out and like that's enjoyable for people to like come along with. And my brain just stopped for a second. Matthew and Valerie ask. This is a question for future videos. This is about Japan. When you've taken car trips in Japan, how often did you find it was difficult to figure out the parking or logistics for the vehicle? In the U.S., for example, there can often be parking lots with unattended machines that you have to pay and then put your receipt on the dash, or parking signs that forbid parking on certain days or times. If similar things existed in Japan, it could be quite difficult to figure out with language barriers. We're interested in doing some of car trips themselves when they come to Japan. Would appreciate our input. Exclude parking in big cities like Tokyo or Osaka. That would be a whole different world. So
is it raining or is Sunshine Sun watering things again?
I don't know. We have a neighbor. She likes to water the ground a lot.
She waters, she's constantly watering things.
She's wonderful, but it's raining. Somebody walked by with an umbrella.
Okay, all right. But so that's one thing you gotta ask yourself.
Car.
Okay, car trips. Well.
Okay, so let's step it back and be like, okay, you do the rental of the cars. Is there websites for renting the cars in English?
Yes, the one that I tend to use is Nippon Rent-A-Car. I would highly recommend it. They have an English website. I tend to use the Japanese website. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't trust the English websites.
But it does exist in English.
Yes, it does. And I would still recommend it on the English, but I haven't used it.
When you pick up your car, they do not.
About car rental.
When you pick up the car, they do not speak English. Every once in a while, a little bit. You might have different luck if you're near a major train station or near an airport or something. It's possible that those staff would be more English oriented, but they basically don't speak English. Doesn't really matter because you've already on the website decided if you want to buy the insurance. You already decided like what car you want. Everything's already checked. They're basically just reading back to you all the stuff.
The only thing that is bothersome about it is you've already decided how much you're going to pay. Just make sure in the end that the number that you were going to pay is what they're showing you, because they are going to talk to you about the insurance and whether you want to increase it. And I just go, daijoubu desu. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Let's give me my car.
You just nod your way through it.
And as long as I get that right price, I know everything's okay.
And it's always worked out. I can't think of it.
The only time I had a real issue was I showed up early, and maybe I was like a half an hour early. It was just I got off the train and I just went there. If they were going to give me the car, they'll give me the car. And then they tried to add. They didn't try to. They just added money to it for the extra time. Oh. And I was like, I don't want to pay anymore. I can wait. So I just sat down and I waited until it was 7:00, and then I could have the car.
So outside of that. You get the car. That's really, you're not going to get hit with any like major linguistical barriers or anything. Nothing's going to stop the show from the car. Just make sure that you have your international driver's permit and your driver's license from the States or Canada or wherever it is you're from, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then once you get on the road, most road signs are written in English. In like if you're like, this direction is Osaka, this direction is Tokyo, like it'll just be written in English. And most everything else is fairly like, just kind of makes sense.
You need to be on the left-hand side of the road.
Yeah, you'd be on the correct side of the road.
The navigation system will be set in Japanese.
Some you can ask them to change it to English though.
and I do.
And if you just tell somebody, like, if you point at the thing about English, like, they're gonna be like,
yes,
okay, they're gonna they'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Sometimes I have actually seen, this was really nice. I had actually seen that the guy knew that I was a foreigner. It was already preset to English.
Oh, that's nice.
And he had also already preset it to my destination because I wasn't going back to the same place.
Oh, yeah.
He preset and showed me, like, when you're ready to go to the end destination, you just press this button and it goes directly there. I was like,
Japan.
Holy crap.
Japan service.
It was really nice.
But parking and stuff. First off, if you're going to be, like you mentioned, Osaka or Tokyo or a major city like that, don't bring the car. Don't bring the car. It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
The parking could be $30 a day, easily, just to park it. And finding parking is not impossible, but it's just not going to be ideal.
Parking is quite available.
It's quite available.
It's like,
it's just expensive, and driving, and honestly, the traffic here isn't horrible. Like, coming from like DC area and stuff where traffic is bad, like, or around like San Francisco, traffic is bad. Here, it's not that bad, honestly. It's just it's stressful because the roads you have all these narrow roads. You don't know if your car is going to fit. Parking is a pain. And like, if you get onto a highway or something, it can get really, really complicated because
then you start having to pay money.
You have to pay money, and there's no way to turn around, and it can just be stressful. So that's the other thing, like, about driving here.
That is okay.
That's the worst part, is the highway.
The highway is terrifying because for us, we don't mind traveling slow, and we want to save money. So we don't use the pay highways, and sometimes it can be very hard to tell if you're about to go onto a highway or not go onto a highway, and that is always really stressful.
And it's not like, oh, it's $1. Like, it's like you get on the highway and you go down, go to the next area that you can possibly get off, and it's $10.
Yeah,
it's like really expensive.
Yeah, we came back from Chiba and we got sucked into one, and I think it cost us 1,500 yen. So whenever we see the interstate, we're always thinking stressed.
And like, we
can
read the signs, and it's still complicated to figure out, like, where is the thing. So in the GPS navigation, one of the settings you can set it to is no tolls.
Yeah.
And then try to follow that, but then you're still nervous.
Make the GPS your friend.
Yeah.
And it will get you to the places you want to go without being any weird charges or whatever.
So outside of cities, parking, I can't think of anything specifically that is difficult. It's hard to...
Parking outside of cities. One thing that you can do is, if you're going to be going to things that are like events, activities, and things like that, you can look up on their website whether they offer parking.
Yeah, everybody lists
Definitely
it on websites.
do that. If I'm going to be in a car, I will do that. There's also guidebooks that you can buy for certain areas.
They're in Japanese.
They're in Japanese, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. Get them. I get them, and my Japanese is getting better because of them. It will show you parking as well in those books. So that information for places that you would go is going to be available.
Again, I agree that's available for us, but if you can't read any Japanese, like none, it's going to be difficult to navigate those books.
Well, anywho, the information is available. People know that if you're driving there, you want to know if you can park.
Yeah.
And
if you get to a point where you're like looking for parking or something and you say parking to people, they're probably going to understand that word. So that's really simple.
The GPS and also Google Maps, you can just type in parking and it will show you places that you can go and park.
It's really hard for me to remember if parking areas are difficult to use, if they have English or not. I don't know. Well,
essentially what happens from what I remember is you drive up, and you're going to get a card.
Yeah.
The card, you leave it in the car just to show that you have got the right stuff. You drive in, you park.
Yeah.
And
when you
then
leave,
when you
it
leave,
timestamps
it knows how much time you've put. Yeah, you've done. You put the card into the machine, and then it tells you how much you owe.
A lot of shopping malls and stuff, you get to park for free for 2 hours or something like that.
As long as it gets validated.
Sometimes it depends.
Yeah,
but sometimes you have to take the card and show, like at a shop when you buy something, they'll like stamp it or something. They do something with the card, and then it makes it free. It's a little complicated.
Yeah.
And this stuff is not going to be in English on like this on a shopping mall out in the countryside.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it is so difficult that it would be impossible, but it's going to be a lot easier in very countryside areas because you can just park. There's no parking fees or anything. There's just a parking lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you're not going to run across this in every single parking lot, but once you start getting into a more urban environment where land is more expensive, then you're going to start running into those problems.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't let it stop you from coming and renting a car and just doing it. But just come and have patience and be ready to be like, okay, that's going to be an extra $5 that we didn't realize we were going to have to spend. If you just come in with that, realizing that that's going to be something that might happen, then it's fine. You're going to learn a little bit from that experience, and then you're just going to move on.
And in every place, getting your own transport and going in at your own speed
is the best.
And going and just seeing things that are outside of what transportation can give you, do it.
Yep.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, come, get a car. Be immersed in the world of
it's funny
driving
the way,
that you don't understand.
The way it is explained, it makes it sound really complicated and scary.
Well, we're
but
looking for the complicated to kind of say, these are the things that we've seen. But that's maybe 10% of the driving experience for logistics of logistics. For the bullshit of it. But all the other stuff is like just normal.
And the other thing about it is that coming and driving here, the people here drive super careful. Like, so driving here is not actually scary. The hardest thing to adjust to is driving on the opposite side of the road if you're from the States.
And that just gets...
You get used to it pretty quickly. But everybody drives very, very cautiously. There's not very many aggressive drivers. So it's fairly safe, and it's a pretty easy place to learn how to drive, like, in that way.
There are stoplights every 15 feet.
There are stoplights every 15 feet. It is not ideal.
And it's really, really terrible because... essentially, if the light doesn't change within like a minute, I'm really distracted. I'm just staring at a puddle that's outside the car because it's more interesting than staring at the light. I'm like, oh, there's a nice puddle. Light's green. Puddle.
We could make an entire video on how to rent a car.
Let's do that. I want to rent a car.
I know you do.
I'm going to rent a car soon. Yay! This month.
We should get some food.
Yeah, I'm quite hungry.
This went on
the car stuff. Growl, I'm sorry.
The car stuff went on a little longer than I expected, but I hope that
it's a topic I like to talk about.
I knew you would enjoy that.
Yeah.
All right.
Have fun on your car trip.